Welcome to Channel 333, giving you your daily morning news. I'm your host, Dara Patel.
And I'm Duncan Museri.
And today we're continuing our discussion on the issues of cross-cultural sexuality, more specifically, child sex trafficking.
Child sex trafficking. It's a silent crime that is forcing some of its youngest victims into a life they never asked for. So what is child sex trafficking?
Child trafficking is when a child has been trafficked if he or she has been moved within a country or across borders, whether by force or not, with the purpose of exploiting the child.
Here are some statistics.
The rates of child sex trafficking across the globe are alarming. There are about 2 million children in the world that are used in commercial sex trafficking. The sex trafficking flow starting from East Asia is the largest and most prominent pathway globally. 30,000 children are in the sex trafficking business in Cambodia. In Nepal, the proportion of sex trafficking victims that were children was about 50%. In 1992, the average age of these prostitutes was 18, and in 1993, the age decreased to 15. There's been a child young as 4 years old who has been documented as a prostitute. Sadly, 60% of children in these South Asian countries end up back in a brothel, even after being rescued by an organization.
However, East Asia is not the only culprit of this crime. Child sex trafficking is happening in our own neighborhoods inside our country. An estimated 199,000 incidents of child exploitation of minors occur in the United States per year. That's one incident every 3 minutes. Existing data on sex trafficking victims in the U.S. identifies that 84% are U.S. citizens and 94% are females. In the United States, Atlanta is considered the hub for sex trafficking. According to the Urban Institute, some traffickers in Atlanta earn $32,000 or more a week.
Wow, those numbers are just disturbing.
Now, let's hear the different perspectives of two professors who have studied child sex trafficking. We are joined by Dr. Dumebi Opara of University of Maryland, College Park, and Dr. Farina Montaka of University of East Asia, Japan.
After years of research from the University of Maryland College Park, we have found out that several feminist groups share different opinions when it comes to the issue of child sex trafficking in the United States and across the globe. The first group I'm going to talk about here is the liberal feminist group. This group is rather different from any other feminist groups you've ever heard about. Here, the feminists believe that child sex trafficking or prostitution is a legitimate form of paid labor. They also believe that consent is irrelevant, as sex trafficking is an expression of choice. Now I'm going to hand it over to my colleague to talk about social feminists and their views on child sex trafficking and prostitution.
Thank you, Dumebi. I do totally agree with you. However, I would like to add perspective of two other feminist groups, the radical feminists and the social feminists. Researchers have found that according to the radical feminists, they argue that prostitution or sex trafficking is an oppressive form of male supremacy. They believe a predominantly female experience and the sexual exploitation of women by men. And according to the social feminists, they believe that because of capitalism, women and children are coerced into prostitution by the construction of social class system. As women and children are considered vulnerable populations, they are easily coerced and exploited, leaving them victims of a capitalist system.
Thank you for sharing those insightful perspectives. Now we will have government official Eleanor Andres to talk about policy recommendations. Thanks for joining us, Eleanor.
Hi, thank you for having me. In the United States, sex trafficking faces heavy penalties, especially when children are involved. Anyone found guilty of the recruiting, harboring, or obtaining of a child for the purposes of selling sex faces a potential life sentence and a minimum of 10 years in prison. Likewise, in Southeast Asia, almost all countries heavily penalize child sex trafficking. Regardless, sex trafficking of minors remains an issue in both areas. The best way to combat this issue is by increasing awareness through training of adults who regularly interact with children, and by instituting awareness programs. In addition to heavier enforcement of laws, policies should be put in place to ensure that victims are not seen as criminals, and instead given resources and support to help reintegrate themselves. This way, we can help reduce child victims of sex trafficking and support those who have fallen victim.
Thank you for that, Eleanor. Child sex trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery and is sadly more common than one may think.
It is important to spread awareness to end it now.
And on that note, that's all for today.
Thank you for joining us. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.
If you believe you have information about a potential trafficking situation, call
1-888-373-7888